2018 gave America record job numbers, with the unemployment rate falling to a 49-year low. It also gave us Michael Rotundo, an unemployed 30-year-old from upstate New York, evicted under court order from his own parents' house after living there rent-free for 8 years. I spoke with Michael about turning his life around and his house hunt. You went to college, right?
Briefly, yeah.
Did you graduate from college?
No, briefly means I didn't graduate. No, I didn't graduate.
So I thought maybe you matriculated quickly because of your advanced intelligence. What was your major when you were briefly in college?
I won't say that. I started with engineering and I went to business when that didn't work out.
Okay, you dropped out of college?
Yep.
Why did you drop out of college?
My academic habits were very poor, and so I really couldn't just integrate into the classes very well.
Okay. So you like engineering and you like business. When you dropped out of college, what happened next?
I started in sales. I've held a lot of different sales jobs.
What were you selling?
I sold vacuum cleaners, I've sold dry cleaner coupons, I've done retail, which isn't real professional sales, but I've done it.
So you've had a few jobs, mostly in sales, but does that account for all 8 years? You must have been unemployed for a lot of that time, right?
No, I drove delivery, which wasn't really a sales job, but I did customer service. That was a year and a half. Mostly it's been sales.
Okay. Were you making any money at these jobs and saving it, or were you just spending it on what?
I really wasn't saving very much, but I spent it on things that I needed.
Like what?
Like food and conventional things, entertainment, food, gasoline, those things like that.
What kind of entertainment?
Sometimes housing. Huh?
What kind of entertainment?
Bars. You go to a bar, that's entertainment, I would say, or just leisure time. Sometimes movies, but not often.
Okay. Do you vote, Mike?
I do vote.
Did you vote for president in 2016?
I did.
Would you like to share who you voted for?
I would share that with you. I voted for Gary Johnson.
Gary. Somehow that doesn't surprise me. What about Gary Johnson did you like?
You know, I like how practical he is with a lot of things. I like how, fiscal responsibility is very important for the Libertarian Party. So, I would say that personally, I think it's...
Hey, Mike, so if fiscal responsibility is something that's important to you, don't you think you might have saved some money and been fiscally responsible in your personal life?
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's a good point. I probably should have bought some bonds or something, or saved more.
Oh, maybe. We hear Mike's still living out on his own. All right, Mike, moving now. From hardly working to working hard. Dirty Job star Mike Rowe shared his thoughts on job creation and the American work ethic. What is your assessment of the American worker in the heartland today?
Oh, I wish I had something new and radical to say, Jesse. By the way, it's nice to finally meet you. I figured our paths would cross eventually.
Yeah, great having you on.
Thanks. Yeah, we shot in all 50 states, at least a dozen times apiece. And, the big lesson on dirty jobs, at least for the people I met, and I'm generalizing, which I hate to do, but there was a sort of a shared awareness, especially in the states that you mentioned, that the people were sort of in on some kind of joke that a lot of other Americans really weren't in on. And that's probably an inelegant way to say it, but the bottom line was there is an absolute disconnect going on. And to your point, a lot of it has to do with how we define meaningful work and whatever it is a good job means in 2018.
Now, when I grew up, my father made me do landscaping and manual labor and, hedging and shoveling and mowing and planting and just working with my hands and getting dirty and sweaty. And, I hated it at the time, but I really kind of made me become a hardworking person. That, I believe, has been lost in today's America. Are we ever going to get that back?
Yeah, we will, because we have to. Or if we don't, then the consequences are going to be so dire that I can't even imagine what it will look like. You're talking about the kinds of jobs that typically get presented as character building.
Yes. And I turned into quite a character, didn't I, Mike?
You certainly did. Obviously, you're a man who's unafraid to get his hands dirty. But the real issue, in my view, is not. It's actually an appreciation, right? I mean, it's one thing to affirmatively discourage our kids from learning a useful skill. It's another thing to lose our appreciation for the people who do the kinds of jobs that make civilized life possible for the rest of us. I'm not a shrink, but there's something interesting about the way we grow to resent the very things we wind up depending most upon. And if you look at our workforce, and if you look at the jobs that are available right now, 6.3 million available jobs, 75% of them don't require a 4-year degree. That's amazing. They require training, they require certification, and they require willingness to do something that most people aren't willing to do. But to affirmatively distance ourselves from the people who are essentially keeping the lights on, it's a bad deal. That's why we have a skills gap, in my view. That's why we have $1.5 trillion of student loans.
Sure.
And that's why we're lending money we don't have to kids who can't pay it back to teach them how to do jobs that don't exist anymore.
And you have to start somewhere as a worker, whether you're 15, 16, 17, 18, or even in your early 20s. I was a bellhop, I was a valet, I was a busboy, and those jobs were some of the most rewarding because I learned that work is just about serving other people. And there's nothing wrong with that, no matter at what level. Everybody, when they work, they're serving the needs or the interests or the desires of a client or a customer. Now, I was getting my shoes shined the other day here in Manhattan, and it was all Latino workers that were shining the shoes. And they were doing a great job, and they're excellent at it, and it's the best shoe shine place in Manhattan. But people say, oh, that the Latino workers in America, they do the jobs that Americans won't do. Do you find that to be true? Are Americans getting soft and there's no desire to do those types of jobs, or do you see it in a more economical way?
I think, again, it's kind of dangerous to generalize, but in a very general way. I think what's happened in our country is we've bought into the idea that our happiness is a result of the job we have. So we make work the enemy. We don't do it on purpose, but when we look at a job like the ones you've just described, we either see them as opportunities or cautionary tales. We've taught our kids that certain types of jobs are the kinds of things you're going to wind up doing if you don't go down the well-worn path of a 4-year degree in college debt, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, you're going to be working at McDonald's your whole life if you don't study your school books.
Right. So my foundation has trained about 1,000 people in skilled trade jobs that aren't going to be replaced by robots and don't really have the whole immigrant conversation hanging around them. I'm talking about plumbers, steam fitters, pipe fitters, welders. These people, by and large, many are making 6 figures. They didn't do it by amassing a huge amount of debt. They did it by looking around, seeing where the opportunities were, getting up early, staying late, distinguishing themselves, and doing all the stuff that we're tacitly telling people is going to make them unhappy. So I think, look, this is a great conversation because you can't talk about work without talking about job satisfaction.
Right.
Why are people unhappy, to me, is the big question. And the reason, in my view, has absolutely nothing or very little to do with what they do for money.
Up next, toxic masculinity and white privilege collide on Watters World.